Hello and welcome, studs and scrubs. This is our fifth episode. Episodes 1 through 4 were our predictions of the divisions. This episode, it has a little precursor of me coming to you now. We filmed this episode at the same time that Hurricane Milton is coming through Tampa, Florida, and it will be here in a few hours. I record out of my house near Tampa. So just bear with us if we have any internet connections or anything cuts out, that there is a storm approaching. It's still the day before. Right now it's 2 a.m. Michigan. Don't tell my wife that it's 2 in the morning and I have work in 5 hours. But just, if you choose to tune into this episode, just be aware of that. And then also, please bear in mind that my buddy Nick Strumm and I did a little, hey, how you doing? How's life? To start the episode. And, I live in a disaster zone right now where you got a Cat 5 hurricane coming through. You can see the boards up for the windows. And so we get a little bit long-winded in this episode before we get into the hockey talk. So, if you want to get to know a new podcast or you've got a long drive and nothing to do, if you're like me, you sit in a cubicle and it's quiet in the office and you need a podcast or audiobooks to get through the day, there's 30 to 40 minutes of us kind of catching up on life and talking about Hurricane Milton. So if you don't care about that and you want to jump into the hockey, go ahead and grab this episode and skip ahead. I think somewhere in the 35-minute mark, maybe the 40-minute mark. I should have checked before I did this. You're going to get right into the hockey talk. We talk fantasy, and it was the 8th, the beginning of the NHL season officially, with the Panthers raising the banner. So we don't have too much fantasy to talk about in terms of who's doing well and who's doing poor this week, because there's only been a few games so far. But feel free to skip ahead and jump in. And thank you for giving us a chance. That's the Studs and Scrubs on YouTube and on Spotify. On Instagram, we are Studs and Scrubs Podcast. Please like, subscribe, share, download, whatever it is. If you are like me and you're in Florida, stay safe. If you're in Pinellas County or near the Gulf, please evacuate. Storm surge is going to be very dangerous. This storm is intense. Where I live, I should be fairly safe. I'm fairly far inland, and we're all hunkered in. We got all of our provisions. We're as best prepared as we can be, but we are almost for sure going to lose electricity, and we are almost guaranteed to lose internet. So we're not 100% sure when we will record the podcast, depending on how long I'm out of power. Episode number 6 should be recorded in the following week, the second week of the NHL season. But if I don't have power, the podcast is on the back burner. So please tune in and listen next time. And thank you very much for giving us a chance. Keep your stick on the ice. Hello, Studs and Scrubs. Welcome to another episode of the Studs and Scrubs podcast. Good start. With you as always. We're just going to keep rolling because I don't feel like it. Your co-host, Stu Coffee, and your co-host, Nick Strumm. Nick, how are things going?
Hey, what's up, Stu? Things are going good. How are you doing down in Tampa Bay, Florida right now with Milton?
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull that card right away and say that my start to the episode, can't even pronounce our own podcast, is going to be because I do live near Tampa, and there was some really serious flooding with Hurricane Helene, and I live farther away from the coast, so I wasn't personally affected by that, but I think it did way more damage than people thought it would because it hit the panhandle, right? And it was really bad. And so people, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. People, I think it was insurance claims, something. People were told, take all your stuff out of your home and, put it on the curb. And so there's
Oh, wow.
people like their whole life, like all their furniture in their whole home was stacked up like a big, like to be thrown in the dumpster almost. And I think it was to get better photos for the insurance, or it was like to get it out of there for damages. I don't know.
Hmm.
But Hurricane Milton is barreling right down our throats. And I'm sitting there, dude, not to get too far off topic, but we're starting off with what's going on in your life. And the freaking thing's category 5 now. So it's like, that's what's going on in my life. So I'm here, and my dad's a snowbird, right? He lives up in like the upper peninsula of Michigan. So he comes down to Florida for less than 2 days. He's here for like 30 hours. He's here. We do a little grill out, whatever. Next day, hey, could you take me to the airport? Yeah, no problem. I got a work conference. He's got to immediately turn around and leave and go to a conference. No big deal. So I take him to the airport. He's gone. Saturday at, I don't know, 2 p.m., he goes to Palm Springs, California. Beautiful hotel. He's in one of those fancy ones, lazy river, golf courses,
Yeah.
everything. He's got this big, gigantic wraparound porch suite, like a sleeps 5 people suite. He's gonna treat the girls like my sisters. The girls are gonna come out. We're gonna do a thing. Everyone like cancels on him, so he can't go. So he's like, well, I guess I'll cancel. I'm in my own room. Well, if I could see the future, I would have hopped on the plane with him and told my work, look, I'm going to work remote, deal with it.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I've never even heard of Storm Milton. Okay. By Sunday, they said, Tropical Storm Milton, Category 1 Milton, to potentially make landfall in Tampa. They're not sure yet. Might hit the Panhandle. Ooh, just got hit. Might hit Cuba. Might hit Tampa. Monday morning at work by 9 a.m. they said Category 5 hurricane inbound. I said, what do you mean a Category 5? What are you talking about? So right now I think it's got 190 mile an hour winds, something like that.
Wow.
Just coming right for us. The thing's 400 miles across. Evacuations have people so backed up, they said it took them like, people drove, I think, under 100 miles in 12 hours.
Wow.
And they've got both shoulders. People are driving down both shoulders. So they got like 5 lanes.
Yeah.
But some people are evacuating south. Some people are like, it's not going to hit Miami as hard. I'm going to go over towards Miami, Fort Lauderdale. So they can't just, like, if you remember when Katrina happened, they had like 20 lanes going north. Like they changed. You can't go south. They blocked it and they made everyone go north. No one's doing that yet. So the 95 is on the other side of the ocean. It's on the Atlantic. And it goes all the way up, right? Like to Canada, basically, I think. It goes Maine to Miami. And it's the same problem there because some people are evacuating to Jacksonville or Savannah. Well, it's a little risky because the storm's so huge. They say it'll still be a Category 1 hurricane after it crosses the whole state.
Yeah.
It'll still be a 1. And the way they spin is like it's the same effect that like when you get a nor'easter snowstorm up north, the air mass moves past you, but then it rotates. So then the wind snaps down from the northeast the wrong direction. And that's why it's so cold. It comes down out of Quebec and stuff like that. And it's just like really bad snowstorms, right? The same thing can happen in a hurricane where now that it's crossed Florida and it's in the Atlantic, it can cause a storm surge again back the other way against Savannah and Jacksonville. And people who live in Jacksonville are probably okay, but if you live by the Jacksonville River, it'll flood. So it's all this huge mess down here. So I rambled a little bit. I went to school for geography for our listeners. And so like I love meteorology. I like to study it, but I don't love being in a Cat 5 hurricane.
Yeah.
So I'm not from Florida, right? So it's a little overwhelming for me, but like I try to stay calm because I've only been here 3 years, and like Category 1, 2, 3 is like people don't even notice. They'll drive in them like it's nothing. But they're like, look, there's already flooding and damage, and now a Cat 5 might hit. Like this is different. This is like dangerous. The only reason I mentioned the people's damage with their stuff in the street is they are mandatory evacuated. So their homes are empty, broken doors, broken windows, broken walls, roofs, whatever, and all their belongings are in the street. And 200-mile-an-hour winds are going to hit in 12 hours. So all that stuff is going to be in potentially a 10-foot storm surge, maybe 15 feet. I heard a meteorology guy talking. He was doing a live question and answer on Twitter, and he was saying, if you're in evacuation A, if you're in zone, like mandatory, it's all mandatory now. It's all the zones are mandatory. I'm too far away from the ocean to be in a zone, so I'm pretty far inland, and it's like you need to go. You have to go. We're like, right, and so he was saying, oh, I gotta go. We're gonna do the 11 o'clock news, but I gotta wrap this up. If you live in these areas, please get out. Don't stick around. If the storm hits in a town called Bradenton, they think it's going to hit in Bradenton. That's the south side of the bay by Sarasota. That will be really bad. But if it moves, they move right, like just last second, it can move just 3 miles, 10 miles. Just like it could be the difference between like bad and total catastrophe. Because if it goes into the actual Tampa Bay, it's very shallow and it'll just like the storm surge will be unreal and it'll go back up into the river systems. So he's like, literally the dude on the news is like, make sure you evacuate whatever. If it comes in and hits Tampa and it goes right into the bay, you are not able to survive a 15-foot storm surge. Gotta go. And I was like, so I live quite a bit farther north. I won't say my exact city on the podcast just in case we go viral here. But I live north and inland. So like where I'm at is much safer than the people that are in real actual Tampa and St. Pete and Clearwater, and it's called Pinellas County. Those people, it's very incredibly dangerous. And where I'm at, it will be such a big storm that if it hits at a Cat 3, by the time it gets to my house, it'll be relatively safe. It'll be like 70-mile-an-hour winds. And if it hits at a Cat 5, then it'll probably be 90 or 100-mile-an-hour winds at my house, which will be intense. But I'm not at risk of the ocean flooding, the storm surge. So for me, it's like there's a lot of flooding away from the ocean. We see what's happening in Asheville, right? That's terrible. But like, there's no rivers near me. So rivers are a lot more dangerous when it floods because water keeps going into it. So it just is like if a lake floods, it's bad, but like it kind of floods and recedes. A river's kind of like all the water's going somewhere, and this is the natural path. So when it's overflowed, it's not stopping. It's going to keep coming. So where we're at is a pretty good spot. Our house is slightly elevated up, and it's solid concrete, both stories. Some houses, the builders will do concrete on the bottom because they have to, and then they'll cheap out and they'll do like the I can't remember what the wood's called, but it looks like particle board, but it's not. It's wood though. And you can't have wood in Florida. It's not a good idea. And I heard people like contractors and stuff saying like wood on concrete is bad because they're like one's firm and one flexes. So like they're not supposed to meet like that. So anyways, now I've talked 10 minutes. I'm going to talk like 2 minutes, but it's probably going to be pretty bad. And I'm almost guaranteed going to lose internet and electricity for a couple days. So we're doing the podcast kind of late tonight, making sure you can see behind me my board. This is I don't have real storm shutters like you see people that live on the coast. I think they have to, or they won't insure them even. They have real storm shutters that are like aluminum or steel. And they're like strong. This is just a precautionary of like, if a rock hits the window, it could break. And I'm probably going to sleep on the first floor because they say it's better. So not that anyone cares, but like, at least this will keep glass from coming in my face. The water will come in.
So what have you done to like prepare if you say you might be without power for a couple of days, like stocking up at the store? Is it looking like COVID where there's no toilet paper in the aisles in the grocery store?
A little bit, yeah. It's not like full COVID. It's funny now because if I saw the stores 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, people are going crazy. But living through COVID and seeing that, it's like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. There's a run on stuff. Like I went to go fill up the car with gas a few days ago on Sunday, I think. And I was kind of surprised there's like no one there. Cool, pulling the 7-Eleven. It's like there's no gas. So I was like, oh, okay, curveball. So then I go to Publix, which is like it's like the king. It's like God grocery stores down here. They're everywhere here. So it's like a Dwayne Reed if you've ever been in New York City. And so I go into Publix. I'm getting stuff. Like I have almost everything because for Hurricane Helene, I stocked up some stuff, and it basically missed where I live, right? And so I have pretty much everything, but just a couple last minute things. Okay, get one more jug of water, maybe some Gatorade, a little bit of this and that. And so I'm all stocked up on like non-perishable foods or just foods you don't need to cook. So it's not always the best, but it's like if you've got cereal and like those bars and canned food and stuff like that, sometimes it's like, okay, if it came down to like life or death, I've got food. I don't really want to eat dry cereal for 5 days, but like I could. But I also bought one of those big giant tubs that's like real rations that are like disaster rations, And so I don't know, I got 200 meals or something like that it's like, okay, I would be good for a while. If I had power out for more than a week, I would probably leave anyways. I'm just not going to do that because, not to get too far off topic, but like I've seen stuff where the people can become kind of dangerous, right? If people get desperate, it can get a little gnarly for a different reason. And it's like, I don't really know if I want to be around for that. But all that to say, I got all my water, I got all my stuff. You can lose power, so I got all my chargers as best you can. Those little portable chargers for your phone. I've got like 5 of those. I have big, huge chargers that are like to jump your car, right? That like, remember at the drive-in theater, people would have those on like golf carts and they'd jump your car for you. So those huge DeWalt ones, I've got like 2 of those, and I mean that'll charge your cell phone like 100 times,
Right.
So I don't have a real generator, gas generator. Public service announcement, those can be really dangerous to linemen. If you run a generator, you have to turn off your main breaker to your home, or you can backfeed the power lines. You can hurt people. But anyways, I'm good because I'm at home. I won't really say where I work, but like there's it's an engineering company, so they partner with utility companies, and so there are a lot of engineers that are going to the storm to help, and they don't restore the power like a lineman. We do damage assessment, and so some people I think might be sent like into the storm, like they'll go there tomorrow and set up in a hotel. So then when it goes past, they like can start right away.
Sure.
Which is kind of scary to me. But anyways, enough about the storm, I guess, because I could talk for days about it because I like meteorology, but also I'm going to live through it. So, but yeah, I mean, as best I can be prepared, we're prepared. We got, I got those shutters, right, that are like actually closed. They're like fake wood. They're this polyethylene stuff. And I'm like got those zip tied shut and stuff. So like, I don't think where I live they'll blow my windows open because it's the strongest windows. But if a rock gets thrown into it 150 miles an hour, it might.
Yeah.
So anyways,
they got you working from home, not working at all.
Yeah, I work from home doing stuff. My new position I took a little while ago. I don't even know if I told you, but I'm more like an administrative assistant for the manager of one of the engineering departments. And so he oversees like everything of one of the utility contractors. So there's multiple utility companies and there's lots and lots and lots of engineering companies, right? So the engineering company I work for, we have different utility clients. And our biggest utility client, this guy's over all of it. So I'm technically his administrative guy, but you're more like a project analyst where all of the managers of the little teams, because they do electrical, so they'll split them up. Like you guys are doing the overhead stuff, you guys are doing the underground stuff, you guys are doing the transmission stuff, you guys are doing neighborhoods, you guys are doing lighting. There's like a million teams, and they're small, like 4 or 5 people. So I kind of help out the managers for every department. That's like, okay, what do you need? So I do a lot of like data management and Excel stuff, and like making the operations run smoothly. And because I went to school for mapping, it's called GIS. They'll have me make the field map sometimes. The fielders actually go out in the field before the engineers design it, and they make sure everything's good, and they check it. Because if the engineer says, okay, we got a work order from the client that says you need to replace this, they call them guy wires. Guy wires are the ones that go down on the ground with the little yellow things around them. Mm-hmm. Those don't have power. They just hold the pole. So like they send someone to the field to go check on it, and they say, hey, this pole is really bad. We have to replace the whole pole. So the engineer has to change the design. Anyways, sorry, I'm kind of off topic now, but I can work remotely doing my stuff like 100% of the time. If they would let me, I could always be remote, because I'm just, as long as I can get on the internet, I'm good. So
gotcha.
They send us all home as a safety precaution, and then as long as we have power in the internet, we can work. So I started the story with Dad going to Palm Springs. If I could see the future, I'd be sitting in like a 5-star hotel working, and be clocking out. Okay, well, on the West Coast, maybe it's a little early. Maybe I'd have to change my hours, but like I'd be done by like noon on California time.
Yeah, dude, that'd be sweet.
Right, sitting in the lazy river. Anyways, so yeah, it's a little crazy here with all that happening and the preparation when you're not from Florida, learning about it all and understanding like how dangerous it is. And a lot of people get hurt after a storm. There's flooding, there's down power lines, there's I've never thought about it, but people die of heat stroke. And like it'll cool down. Now that it's October, the storm will be so large that the overnight lows are supposed to be like 60, where if your hurricane hit in August, it's like overnight lows are like 85, 90. So like if you're going 7 or 8 days without the air conditioner, especially if you're older, it can be really dangerous. So all that to say, it is a very serious, dangerous storm. But where I live, I should be okay. I'm mostly, to be honest, worried about my daughter's only 9 months old, and I think that it will be loud. Hurricanes this strong like vibrate the walls and the windows, and I think it's going to be really loud, and she might be scared. And then that, other than that, we should be okay. Our home is in a good spot where hopefully everything will be all right. But I know a lot of people that live in evacuation zones.
Well, stay safe down there. Hopefully it's not too bad. So
yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. Well, if we need to cut the episode, we'll do our best for our new listeners. We went live today. It's October the 8th, the first day, the real first day of the NHL. No offense, Europe, but those games obviously count. But like, this is the first day. We're starting hockey today. The podcast went live today. We got a couple views on our YouTube that weren't people we know. They were like strangers.
Oh, nice.
And one of our episodes I saw said 50% on like your like you can look up, and I was like, what does that mean? I've never done this. I click on it. 1 like, 1 thumbs down. Thanks. Good start. We've been live for 12 hours, so you already said not for me.
It was probably the Wings comments.
It was something, right?
Probably
came on and they said
Blackhawk or Blues or Avs fans or something. So
well, you know what? I was listening to our episodes to make sure the recordings worked, and we did our studs and scrubs. We had 2 Vancouver players, and now I'm worried that they're going to get out.
Who did we have for the?
I don't even know if we should repeat it. I picked Jake DeBrusk and really overkilled that. I think he was good, and now his family's going to come like, what have you ever done? And then you picked Dinko.
Oh, yes. But I think I prefaced it with just the situation, and I think he's.
It was the injuries and the.
Yeah.
Which is
So
what we'll get into this episode, right? I didn't mean to talk so long about this Storm. We're going to go through our draft a little bit and kind of say, okay, Demko's a total awesome goalie, but if you pick him as your first round pick and he's injured, like,
right.
that's not smart, so stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, you had a busy week too,
Yeah.
though, right?
So I guess I didn't tell you. I went and did first Spartan race. I'm not sure how familiar you are with those, or
You run through the mud and stuff, and like it's real
yeah,
crazy.
it's like an obstacle course, a 5K with obstacles is what I did. Now
Yeah.
they have longer ones you can run. I just did what they call a sprint, so it was a 5K and about 20 obstacles.
Sprint.
Yeah, right. They have a super, which is 10K with obstacles, and then they have a beast, which I believe is like a half marathon with like 30 obstacles. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I've never done one before. I've been kind of training since April, and I went and did the one in Nashville. So if you were there, I was there with you. Should have came and said hi. But my two nephews, one lives in Chattanooga and one is going to school in South Carolina. They met me there. And back 6 months ago when I was starting this, I wanted to do it with someone, right? I would just go do it by myself. That doesn't seem like a lot of fun. So misery loves company. So I thought, why not bring my nephews? They're 15 and like 18 years younger than see what they can do. And so we had a great time. Got a little Airbnb. We're there for just kind of two nights, 3 days, and yeah, the obstacles kind of ranged from just jumping over hills or jumping over walls. You're climbing, not climbing. You're kind of crawl underneath barbed wire, like real barbed wire.
Really?
So you're crawling under that. Now, if you crawl
You
low
get
enough,
signed a bunch of stuff that
if you
says
crawl
if I
low
if I
enough,
don't.
it doesn't, nothing happens. Um, but all kind of heavy carries. You're carrying Atlas balls, buckets with rocks. You're doing kind of monkey bars. I did these rings where you kind of grab the ring and swing across, and I was able to do about 19 out of the 20 obstacles. So
Nice.
what
kind?
the two that I couldn't do, the first one was the rope climb, and I practiced a little bit before the race. You have to get, unless you just have brute strength, there's a technique to like kind of get the rope pinched between your feet. And
then you can step it, right?
You can kind of step on the rope and use it to kind of, push yourself up a little bit, and then grab the rope and kind of hang on, readjust your feet, bring your legs up a little bit and do that. And I got kind of close, a little over halfway, and I just couldn't. The rope climb was towards the end of the race. I was just so gassed I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think I was worried about getting to the top and then just like not being able to get down and just not even letting go, but like holding on and getting rope burn all the way down on my hands. And so I think I was a little nervous about that. But so I tried it about 3 times. I made progress each time, I guess, but I still wasn't real close to getting it. Now, my one nephew, James, you know him, Stu, he is a weightlifter. And so a lot of these obstacles were okay for him, but it was the running part in between because he's not big on cardio. But nothing against him. But I mean, he is a strong dude. And he tried the rope climb a couple times using the foot technique, couldn't get it. And then finally just said, the heck with it. I'm just going to beast mode my way the rope, just all arm strength, hand over hand over hand, and did it.
That's impressive.
It was awesome to watch him do that, yeah. So he
to be honest with you, I thought that he would have difficulty with that because I've heard when you're heavy, right? Like if you got big, strong legs, it's hard because you're heavy.
He had a lot to carry up there. Just because he's a bigger, muscular guy, but it was pretty cool to watch. And then my other
that's impressive. Go James.
Yeah. My other nephew Jake, he made it up. He had a nice little technique, like nice little rhythm he found to get to the top. He might have only taken two. I don't think he got there on his first try, but maybe on his second. So he got up there pretty easily. It seemed like. Um, so I couldn't do that, which means I have to go back and do another one and figure out how to do the rope climb. And shortly after that, you go through the mud, right? You're like walking through the mud puddles up and over the
Okay.
hills, and then on the very last one, you have to go under this like inflatable thing in the mud, so like you're completely submersed in the muddy water. Which at that point it was like 90 degrees and 1:30 in the afternoon, so it felt pretty refreshing. um, but then the obstacle right after that was this um, wall. I forget what they call it, but it's just like a slick ramp with a rope that hangs down on it. So you have to grab the rope and kind of
Okay.
walk the ramp that you're on. And the trick is to kind of keep your weight on your heels and really lean back holding onto that rope. If you try to lean
Okay.
forward up against the thing, then your feet are just going to kind of slip out from under you and you're just going to be hanging onto the rope on the thing. So you want to be leaned back, weight on your heels, and kind of walk it
Yeah.
up, pull yourself on the wall. And I had it down, but I got a little over ambitious on getting to the top. So I reached for the top sooner than I should have. I grabbed it, but my arms were fully extended. So I was just
Now
hanging
you gotta do a
there
pull up.
and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was so tired. Jake had done it right before me, so he's kind of looking back at me, and I'm looking up at him, and I'm going, I can't do it, Jake. I can't do it. So I just had to let go, and I slid all the way back down. But it was a lot of fun. My brother-in-law went down with me, the dad of James and Jake, and he got some video and pictures and stuff. And yeah, it was a really good time. He was watching it, and he said that it looked like fun. He wants to maybe start training and do one with us. And
Nice.
so there were a lot of older people there doing those. I was really surprised. And some of the obstacles were kind of challenging and pretty hard, but then, some weren't so bad. Said some were just like climbing over a hay bale, one of those big circle hay stack things. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just different. It just breaks it up so that you're not running just a 5K. There's some obstacles in there. There was one obstacle that I didn't like was, well, not that I didn't like it, but it was the spear throw. And so you get one shot at chucking this spear into this target, and I mean you can do it time after time after time, but you got to like go to the back of the line. There's a lot of people, and so I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with like strength or doing a thing. I mean, it's kind of skill, and there's penalties if you can't do an obstacle. It's 30 burpees, or they have like these penalty
Oof.
loops. You just run kind of another little loop to add onto your time. And I ran the penalty loops at the two obstacles I did, couldn't do. But James and Jake both, they couldn't do that ring, the ring like monkey bar thing. So they had to do 30 burpees. And then they both missed the target with the spear throw. And so they had to do more. But I nailed the spear throw, which I was like, whew, praise the Lord, I don't want to have too many burpees. But it was like, this doesn't seem, I don't know, it just seemed different because it was like, this is a skill thing. This isn't, I could be, and I guess it's supposed to be kind of a little bit of a mixture thing, but it's like everything else was, climbing over cargo nets and carrying heavy things and jumping over walls. And then it's like, okay, well, now you get here, I'm going to see how good you are at target, throwing a stick
Right.
at a target. It's like, well, I could be terrible at this, and this is going to, Anyway, overall, great time. I would suggest doing a Spartan race to anybody. Like I said, some of the stuff I was training doing, I didn't think was necessarily going to help me. I was doing like these bear crawls or mountain climbers and
Yeah.
burpees, and I did do like a heavy carry type exercise as well. But when I'm doing that, I'm like, how is this training me for a Spartan? But I was surprised at the number of people that I heard complain about doing the crawling under the barbed wire and stuff, and saying that was the
Okay.
hardest part. And it was a long time. We might have had to crawl 50 yards under barbed wire. It's kind of snaked around and stuff. And I think a lot of that was just that it's not necessarily like a natural motion for your body. So if you don't practice doing it, it does feel weird. Your muscles can kind of get kind of funky on you real
Are
quick.
you full army crawl like in boot camp? You're all the way down,
Yeah,
or is it?
essentially. I wasn't bear crawling. I trained doing bear crawls, so like my butt's
Yeah.
way up in the air and I'm doing stuff. But if I would have done that, would have caught the barbed wire, so I had to be a little lower, and it was just easier to just kind of do a quick little arm crawl. Um,
Yeah.
so, but I mean, if you hadn't trained for that at all, I can see how that would be, a little challenging. But yeah, it was a
Yeah.
good time. I'm like I said, that was just a 5K, so 3 miles, 20 obstacles. I'm already looking into, so next year, doing what they call a Spartan trifecta, and that is you do one of each race in a calendar year. So doing a sprint, a super, and a
Okay.
beast in
Now
the
that's
calendar year
hard.
of 2025. So I turned 30 in
You got to get one
January.
out of the way. January
I
3rd.
know. And I kind of wish I would have started a little sooner this year because I don't. They have events that I could do it within the next couple months, but I'm not ready. I haven't trained enough to do that yet. So,
Yeah.
but I turned 39 in January, and I've already started looking at trying to make a list of things I want to do before I'm 40. And so I think
Okay.
next year, Spartan trifecta, before I'm 40, cool. But then I'm probably going to get sucked into doing another one because they put you in your age groups. So you're like 35 to 39. So I'm going to do one when I'm 39 on the old man side of my age group. But when I turn
Mm-hmm.
40, I'll be going up against 45-year-olds. And it's like, all right, well,
You're the
maybe I
young
have a
buck.
shot,
This is right.
So,
This is
but
now for our listeners that want to just hop into a Spartan race. Nick Strumm has been doing half marathons for how long now?
yeah, I've been doing half marathons for about 7 or 8 years. So,
Wow.
but
Yeah, I knew it'd been a little while,
yeah,
but
and
that's
I was really getting into it,
that's
say
15 miles is a
2016.
long time.
Yeah, COVID kind of threw me off a little bit. I think I even skipped one half marathon that we do here in our town just because it was going to be virtual. And I was like, well, I'm not, it's kind of fun to be with other people and run it.
They did that. Like people were on treadmills, and it was
Well,
just
you could
virtual
just go
time.
outside and do it and then submit your time, so you're
Oh,
just running on your own, which was
4 minute
fine.
I
We still did
crushed
it
it.
right. Yeah. Just get in my car and drive real slow.
I
Like,
did
oh,
an
yeah.
hour. I was on a moped though.
Right. So during COVID, actually, maybe a little after COVID or something, it's just this weird time. I was already kind of putting some weight back on that I had lost just because we moved and there was a lot of things going on in my life that I just didn't have the time to devote to it like I did before. So actually, just in the last year and a half, I've been kind of getting back on the horse, trying to lose weight, get back in shape, run some more, and take it a little more serious. And so I liked the running part, but then I had heard about these Spartan races, and I was like, okay, that might be interesting. Little, American Ninja Warrior style obstacle course, just mixing it up a little bit. And I tell you what, I loved it. It was a lot of fun, and especially if you can get people to do it with you. We didn't run it for time. We just wanted to do it together and
just
see
for
how
fun,
we
right?
did.
I mean,
Yeah.
something
So
guys too, right?
yeah, I could have probably done it a little bit faster just because I got the running background, so my cardio was I was in better cardio shape than my nephews, so I could have made up some time in between obstacles. But the point was they all met there together to run this together, so we were going to stick together. So
right. I mean, see you later, bud.
Yeah,
Going for my personal best.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend looking into them and just checking them out. You know what?
It was
a lot of fun.
I wonder for me, I'm starting to think I've become a bit of a wimp of the temperature.
Mm,
You dropped something 30-degree water or something you said. I don't know what you said, but
yeah,
I'm sitting here thinking it's October, crawling through the mud. Okay, well, it was a little weird today because the hurricane's coming tomorrow. It was a beautiful day.
yeah,
It was like 85 and sunny with a little bit of wind. It was like always weirds me out that I always think of the ancient people that couldn't tell the weather patterns, right? It's like, oh, it's a beautiful
yeah,
day, and it's like you're about to get rocked tomorrow. Like, no wonder
right.
they thought like you guys are angry at us. Like, but I'm sitting here thinking while you're talking, I'm going, okay, if I did one in Florida in August, I'd probably die. But if I did one in Florida in November, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you were in Nashville, right? I mean, Nashville in October is starting to get down. Is it, what is it, 60 to 70 degrees?
Well, I think that's what they were hoping for, but we ran our race. We got started about noon on Saturday, and it was every bit of 85 degrees.
Okay, that's pretty hot to be doing obstacle courses and running 3 miles.
But I mean, that's probably not the norm. You know what I mean for Nashville in October.
Yeah, right. That's probably a good region to like. Okay, first week of October, it's going to be 68 degrees or something. It's
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I know Nashville. I know Tennessee gets hot, but it also
Yeah.
has those mountains and it does cool off.
Yeah.
The weirdly enough, when I moved to Florida, not when I moved here. I don't know. I was up north for something. Don't know why, but I got stuck in a snowstorm that was bad enough where like
Mm.
I didn't grow up in Canada, but like I've been around the snow. Illinois snow it was quite a bit. I went to school in Iowa. Like I've been around snow, but um, I was like, we better pull over, and I pulled over and slept in a gas station for 6-7 hours and waited till the morning. In Tennessee, we got caught in those
Hmm.
mountains, and it was just kind of like,
Oh
okay, these
yeah.
are pretty steep grades. You're coming down in the snow, and the only people that have traction are semi trucks that are blowing
Yeah.
past you. I was like, this is getting a little dangerous. Um, anyways, that sounds really pretty fun,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, I basically haven't worked out since I was a teenager, but
Yeah. Well, I think
going
I did
for a
say
run.
one in Florida in November, right? Is that what you said you would do?
I said I think I would do better than in August, is what I think I said. Um, but that sounds way more fun, though. I was always like that. Even when I was in good shape, it was like I would run every single day for hockey, and it was like just to stay in shape.
Hmm.
People were like, "Oh, I love to go for a run. It clears my head." You've become a runner as recent
Yeah.
years, and I'm like, dude, running is like torture. It's lower than me than like it's okay. You know, bamboo shoots under your fingernails running. They're like
Yeah.
right. And I used to run all the time, but it was just to stay in physical shape. So anytime it was a sport, like, oh, go play soccer for an hour, or okay, we're gonna do
Right.
something stupid like for practice, and you're gonna run up these hill and do this thing with your partner, and then you gotta, this guy holds your feet while you do sit-ups, and then you switch, and then you do a relay race. It's like I would always have more fun like that. Like you're talking with the Spartan race.
Yeah.
You're doing something
Yeah.
stupid. You climb this rope. Well, I can't climb the rope, coach. Okay, give me a lap. It's like
Right.
that
Yeah.
me is always way more fun when you
Yeah.
introduce some rules and some activities where it's like, okay, go run. I did cross country 1 year in high school and was like, this is the worst thing there is. Like running 3 miles versus racing 3 miles is,
Yeah.
is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyways, this is great catching up. We haven't talked hockey at all, and
I
we're
know.
already
Yeah.
into our
We're
timer.
That's
If
all
this
right.
episode gets cut, we'll just do a hey, welcome to the Studs and Scrubs podcast. Maybe we'll cut it at 40 minutes. We'll start here.
I think people should get to know.
They should, because this is the first recording that we're doing regularly. I think we might have to switch our recording day maybe as the school year goes on and stuff like that. You've got kids in high
Probably,
school now.
yeah, because yeah.
The first 4 episodes came out live today on our Spotify and our YouTube, and we did the preseason predictions. And those episodes normally are longer. They're all about an hour and a half because we went through all 32 teams. So we were thinking that when we go every week, we'll keep them shorter, 45 minutes to an hour of like, here's kind of what's happening in our lives, here's kind of what's happening in fantasy. But now we're at 40 minutes and we haven't even started, so that's a little different.
The last 3 minutes will be hockey.
And the last 3 minutes will be hockey. So if you would like a tune into our Phone Calls as Friends podcast, we got you covered. But also, I think that we'll have a better rhythm when the season's going, right? Because everyone's excited for hockey.
For sure,
like,
yeah.
The game started today, so there's not a ton of fantasy hockey to talk about, other than maybe in a few minutes we can all make fun of Korpisalo, poor guy. I don't know if you saw the score, but if Swayman would have waited one more week to sign his contract, he could have got the bank. I think the game ended up being a little closer. Boston had some pushback, but it was 5-1 in like the second period, I want to say. And the Florida Stadium is chanting, "We want Swayman," because Korpisalo's let in 5 goals on 15 shots or something, and they're like, "We want Swayman."
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so poor Korpisalo, probably not really his fault, but they just got kind of run over by the Panthers today, and he did not play super good. So it was like, all right, well, people are joking. If Swayman would have signed after that, they would have just given him a blank check, keys to the vault. You remember that old movie? You remember that movie, Blank Check? It was like a Richie Rich ripoff.
I remember that. Yeah.
The kid finds a blank check on the ground and he writes in $1 million and he just goes spends it. And then like that's the bad guy of the movie. He's like a billionaire that's like, "Oh, you stole money from me. Yeah, you owe it back." I don't remember, but it was like a real silly, dumb kids movie. I loved it growing up, though.
It's crazy if you go back and watch and see, because it was like $1 million or something, but he just like went nuts with it, and it was like, I don't know all that stuff.
I'm not quite sure because he buys like a house or something, then he throws this big party there, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it'd be $1 million, but could you imagine being like the bank and the realtor and stuff? That's like, I don't know what to tell you. The kid had money. I had to get a blank check. Although I would. Right. I guess if maybe that's my greed, but if some kid walked up to me with a check and said, "Hey, here's $1 million, I want the house," and it went through, I'd probably keep the money. All right, so we'll recompose ourselves here a little bit for our new fans. If you haven't, thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to do an episode every week, and they will be a little more to the point of hockey in general. Okay, I've never been through a Cat 5 hurricane. Nick's never done a Spartan race. These are life events.
A lot of new stuff.
Okay, we have a lot going on, and we have to record and catch up a little bit because even if I'm totally safe, I won't be able to communicate to people.
Yeah.
When the electricity goes out and the internet goes out, it happened. My wife's Puerto Rican. In Maria, it was really bad. If a cell phone tower goes down, you can't talk to people. So the internet probably will come on first because it's buried. And then it's like, okay, now I can get on WhatsApp and be like, "I'm alive," but your radio silence for a minute. So let's get it recorded. Let's get into it. But so I think that we wanted to kind of jump in to talk hockey a little bit, but kind of focus on fantasy there's only been the 2 games in Europe so far, and now it's midnight Michigan. So Chicago, Utah are still live, but Panthers kind of ripped apart Boston. 0-2, right? And then what happened with St. Louis?
Won 3-2.
Okay, because that's one of my studs. It played in that game. So I didn't know if we wanted to go through our draft a little bit and do it that way, or we wanted to kind of talk with these games that happened today. What do you think?
We could. Let's do the draft a little bit. So our draft was about a week and a half ago, I guess.
Yeah, Sunday, the last one. 29, maybe?
Yeah.
30.
Right, end of September. The day before those Global Series games. And
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so we had some people. I had some people at work today too. They were unaware of the two of the ads for the week. That the first week was a long week. They thought it was like a calendar week, and so they were like, "What? I've already used two of my ads." And I was like, "Well, yeah, sorry." So watch out for that. I will say that does get some people. There is during the season, I want to say it's like over the All-Star break, there's another long week. And so just be mindful of that when you're using your ads, for your
Yeah.
team that, one of those longer weeks, don't burn them up. You might need one or two, save one or two for the end of the week, just in case. There's always going to be guys that you can pick up, but you
Yep.
would hate to be in a spot where you use them all up, say in the first 3 days of a 10-day week. And then if you got guys that get hurt or aren't playing or something happens, I mean, then you can really get yourself in a bind.
Yep.
Um,
100% good, because people always forget that on the All Star break, or is the Global Series going to be this year, or not the Global Series, the
uh,
fake Olympics? Are
oh,
we doing that
yes.
this year or next season? That's this season, right?
Uh, I think, yeah, yeah. So
Right. So either way, in
it is
fantasy,
a
it'll
little
be like
tricky. 2 weeks
longer.
or 10 days
If,
or whatever. Yeah.
well, not to pick on them too much, but like you said, I did want to bring up at least two people, right? I feel like your
Probably two
son
or
and
three. Yeah. My son
your
was one of
boss.
them. Yes.
I'm looking at it now. I didn't realize. I just not to chirp because I looked at his roster and there's people hurt. So fine.
Yeah.
But my phone's going off and I'm staring at it like I don't understand what like this is my fantasy league. Didn't we just draft? And I'm looking at it at work and I'm like, okay, Nick's son just added two goalies. There's no games yet.
Yeah.
What's happening? What did I miss? But
So, yeah.
okay,
So,
so after you, did you have any studs and scrubs that you wanted to call out in like terms of where they were drafted in our draft, or did you just want to
yeah.
go
So
from there?
I particularly picked up on our draft and just seeing where guys went. And so I
Yep.
didn't write down who drafted these guys. Some of them I know, but I just kind of want to. I'm not trying to chirp anybody in my league, but just some of these guys here. So this one here, if your prediction is correct, and Todd Bertuzzi gets 197 points this year, he's going to be a steal of a pick in round 16. uh, I had to throw that one in to chirp you a little bit. He did go round
Uh,
16. He'll probably have a decent year, so round 16 is not terrible. But I
well, he's off to a good start.
one that I do like, and I don't know who got him, but Logan Cooley in our draft went in round 16. So we only have 18 rounds, and round 18 is a keeper. So 16 is
Yeah.
next to last round. He went 191st overall. I think Logan Cooley's going to have a good year. He might have even been a stud in one of my other when we talked about
The Pacific, yeah, he might have
Pacific.
been.
But I like where he's at. I will tell you that he probably fell in our draft because I believe he's a center only. And in our
Yes, I'm looking at
draft,
that right now.
a lot of good centers just fall because they're centers only, and they tend to drop. We only have two center positions, four wingers, 4D, two goalies. So you can find good value in centers later on in rounds, and I think Logan Cooley was one that I like this year. I like the Utah club this year. I like everybody kind of getting a fresh start, and yeah, Logan Cooley, 191st overall, round 16. Who drafted him? Are you looking at the team right
Bajo's
now?
Tacos.
Okay, so yeah, um, that's my buddy Aaron. But
Okay.
yeah, I like Logan Cooley round 16. I don't know. Some of it can kind of depend on what the makeup of your team is. If Logan Cooley's your fifth center, well, now you're a little center heavy. You probably need to get rid of him or another center to just to maximize the number of games that you can play in a week. But if Logan Cooley's your third center, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, that's a good call out because even though you chirp me, I'm going to pump your tires a little bit. I looked over round 16 for you, another center only, Anze Kopitar.
Hmm.
182, Logan Cooley 191. That's a pretty solid grab for Kopitar. I know he's not the player that he was, but like he had a lot of points last year.
Yeah.
And he has block shots. He plays everything. He doesn't take very many penalties. He scores on the power play. Like, that's a really good deep pick. And you're talking about third centers. You got round 4 Larkin, round 11 Lindholm in Boston, and round 16 Kopitar. That's some pretty good center grabs. So I like that. That's kind of, I wasn't going to say a stud there necessarily, but I just looked at round 16 to compare to Cooley. And that's a really good one because I'm looking at some of these other ones in round 16. Stu, me, I got Tyler Bertuzzi round 16. Well, I said he's going to be a stud. He's going to play great because he's going to be on line with Bedard. He had negative fantasy points 5 minutes into the game because Utah came out and just tore him up. The game's still pretty close. It's still 2-0, but it was 2-0 in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh no, what have I done? So picking on myself a little bit, it's not time to hit the panic button yet on Tyler Bertuzzi is a winger who's going to play with Bedard probably. But there are some times where you go, I made a mistake drafting. Like, there are some people in our league that weren't drafted that are pretty darn good and who I kind of wanted to pick when I got Bertuzzi. I said, I better put my money where my mouth is. I just started a podcast with Nick, and Miles is our other co-host is my brother Miles. He's still not on yet, so officially not a co-host yet, but he is in the lineup. I had Bertuzzi, and I think it was Anthony Duclair. And he was one of my studs too that, to be honest, I'm more confident with. He's a proven veteran and has a lot of speed. And I feel like Wah will kind of let the Islanders run and gun a little more. I think he's going to let line one just have a field day. I could be wrong, but so I kind of was like, I think I should take Duclair, but I have to pick Bertuzzi now. But, it's not time to hit the panic button. But when I look at the fantasy at first, those games in Europe, I was joking that I'm like, oh, turns out I'm a genius because I said Devils are going to win the President's Trophy, and I don't see it with Buffalo. I don't think they have the guns that some people do, and I think they're a little bit slower. They got some problems in net, maybe. Like Levi might be amazing. He might not be. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen might be amazing. He might not be. Well, coming out of Europe, they get crushed by the Devils, ball over them, just manhandle the whole series. And I'm like, I'm a genius. Then we're one game into the regular season, and I'm like, okay, well, I also picked Bertuzzi, so maybe not. So I'm going to go with a stud, though, real quick, now that I've rambled on, because he's on my fantasy team, and it's how my day started. I check my points. Playing my wife this week. Jump out to an early lead. Don't worry about it, babe. You're just a girl. You're just a girl. Don't worry. Well, she's already beating me, thanks to Bertuzzi. But I have Kyrou on my team.
Okay.
So what did you say that the Blues won? Blues won 3-2. He had 2 goals.
Yeah.
Okay, so he carries his team to a victory right out of the gate. Everyone knows the Blues are going to not be super good this year. Some people kind of have them as a bubble playoff team, a wild card team. I don't really think so, unless Binnington just is like a freak of nature. But like 2 goals right away, game 1. I mean, I'm going stud, Kyrou, because I also picked him fairly late, I think. Middle bottom. Where is my name? Okay. Sam Squanches. I'm just Sam Squanches. I picked him in round 10. And I'm looking at some other round 10s. I think he's better than we got Thomas Harley on defense. Bo Horvat's probably better, but he's only a center. Not
Yeah. I was just
too
gonna
sure
say
too
Kyrie
much,
should be
but
center winger.
yeah, I agree.
Kyrie, yeah.
No, Kairu is. I'm looking at somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah.
had whatever.
Kyrie's
But
center winger, so he's got more versatility.
which right, exactly. So like for me, that's still a steal. Round 10, some people might say high, but it's like my prediction was that Kairu and Thomas are going to be the only guys scoring for St. Louis, and so far so true.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at other people's round 10 picks and just thinking that I feel pretty good. There's some that are maybe better. Noah Hannafin might be really good. There's some good round 10 picks, but most of them are defensemen, and most of them aren't very good point getting defensemen. They're
Yeah,
filler D.
you look at round 10 there, and like you said, one, two, three, four, five, six defensemen. So half of the picks in round 10 were defensemen.
Yeah.
And then a couple goalies that I think Cairo are better picks than those
Yep.
goalies. If you can get a forward over some of those, I mean, these defensemen in this, Zach Werenski, decent. Jacob
Yeah.
Chitrin for the
He's
Caps,
good.
decent. But, some of these guys, I don't know. I mean, Rasmus Anderson. I took Mike Mathewson in the 10th there right after you took Jordan Kyrou. So it's not like they are high flying, high offense defensemen. Now, Werenski and Chitrin, potentially, but
Yeah.
also maybe a little past, where they've been in previous seasons. But so yeah, Jordan Kyrou in round 10 is not a bad pick at all.
Yeah. So I didn't really mean to pick my own guy, but he scored 2 goals today. So I was like, oh, there's my stud. No question.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I like it.
so, anyways, that's my first stud. I know I listed 7 players' names instead of one, but who you got next?
All right, so I'm gonna go scrub this pick,
Okay.
and I labeled him a scrub when we did the Atlantic, and I'm gonna stick with it, and I'm gonna try to give you my reason, and that's gonna be Sam Reinhart. I know he's a center winger, so he's got dual eligibility, which is versatile, and I know that he scored close to 100 points last year and 50 some odd goals. He went 17th overall, which is middle of round 2 essentially. And you know what? He might have another good year. I don't know. I just like guys that prove to me year after year after year. He's had that was his best year, career year, obviously. I'm not buying it after 1 year like that. So he got taken. This is why I'm saying scrub. He was picked before Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby, I'm willing to bet his floor is 90 points. Sam Reinhart's
Okay.
ceiling last year was 90 points. Um, Now, with that being said, Crosby being a center only, you're locking yourself into that position. But Crosby, if he stays healthy, I think easily gets 100 points this year. Adam Fox, while he's not going to get you 90 points, if you get a defenseman that can score you 75, you're in good shape. Adam Fox was picked after Sam Reinhart. Connor Hellebuck after Sam Reinhart. Victor Hedman, he might have a little bit of a down year just with guys leaving in Tampa and, getting their teams getting a little, you lost Stamkos and all that, but still a very dangerous power play. He's the quarterback of that team. Um, Captain now, going to be getting a lot of points there. So I'm saying scrub because I think he was taken a little too high, a little risky for my taste personally, especially with guys below him that have a higher floor and are a little more stable, a little more consistent, a little more you know what you're going to get. I know what I'm going to get from Sidney Crosby, Adam Fox, Victor Hedman, Connor Hellebuck. It's not as much of a gamble taking those guys in round 2. So nothing against Sam Reinhart. He's probably going to have another great year. Might be a point per game player again. But I just, man, for whatever reason, I have a hard time taking him that high with those other guys below him there. So
I think you make a good argument. I was going to chirp you right away because I think he's leading the NHL in points. and got a goal and assist in his first game. He's on pace for 160 points. But I agree though that it's like our players like who was somebody else we both kind of said there's Trocheck a little bit. It was as well as Kreider, right, and Zach Hyman, and even the Nuge, where they're really good players and they could easily go get 70 or 80 points. But Nugent Hopkins had 110 last year or something like that, 105. It's like, okay, are they going to really repeat that? Maybe they might. They are good, but like you said, Crosby is like the guy has never gotten below 82 points ever in his career, right? Or whatever, point per game, right? He's right. Chasing the Gretzky record.
Point per game season, yeah.
Point per game for 20 years. I mean, you got it locked up. Now, of course, goals are worth more than assists in fantasy when you do the point system. And we do the point system. So when you do it off of points, somebody like Matthews is more valuable than somebody like Kucherov maybe. I mean, he scores a lot of goals too, but like when somebody's an assist machine, like let's maybe think Backstrom in his heyday, where he's more of the passer. Matthews is going to be way more valuable with 69 goals because of that is skewed. So is Reinhart going to go get 50 again? Maybe, but he's drafted pretty high. So I like your reasoning there.
So if you look,
I'm going to go. Oh, sorry.
No, real quick. If you look to, so Sam Reinhart drafted 17. Zach Hyman was drafted right behind him, 18. And last year, Zach Hyman had 54 goals, 23 assists. So you're talking 77 points. Zach Hyman wasn't even a point per game player last year, getting drafted 18th overall in the second round. Maybe he would be a better scrub pick for me, but those two right there, those guys, both of those picked over Adam Fox, over Sidney Crosby, over Connor Hellebuck.
I'll just pick some people on my team to back you up a little bit. After them, I got Adam Fox, Mika Zibanejad, Ullmark, Malcolm, just to name a few.
So, I mean,
and we all know Malcolm had a bad year last year, but like that's just an example. Who's a few other people that are way lower? Kyle Connor, the whole round after.
Yeah,
and I know he's not sexy as a name. Matthew Barzal is a center winger. He's round 5.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is, Miles had some interesting picks that could pan out, but they're not what I would do. Like Haberdew. Haberdew, everyone knows, fell off the face of the earth and he doesn't get points anymore. He's still a center winger that Miles took in round 14. Okay, that's worth the gamble to me. He got Max Domi in round 15. Those are some deep picks. Miles has some better deep picks. Some of his high round picks, he took Kane in round 7, a little high for me. Cam Talbot in round 10 is a head scratcher for me. No offense, Red Wings, but I don't see that one.
I look and see, and I've probably said it before on here, but like a lot of my decisions as to studs and scrubs is based on their value from where they're drafted, bang for the buck. Not necessarily that player is really a scrub or a stud necessarily,
right,
but just where they went, and just trying to find that sweet spot of where they're valued at. Are they overvalued? Are they undervalued? Are you getting a steal from them? So, again, I'm not trying to bash Reinhart or Zach Hyman, but when you had other guys that are more consistent behind them, I lean a little more conservative on some of those picks and those players.
Yeah, I actually did it in our fantasy one year. It was a long time ago, second or third year, and the Ducks were amazing, right? They were really good. They got knocked out of the playoffs deep run. I don't remember. And it was probably when the Blackhawks and the Kings were winning every year, right? And the next year, I had back-to-back picks. I want to say 9 and 10, or 10 and 11, or whatever we did back then. And I had Corey Perry and Ryan Getzloff. And it was like, game is over. I win fantasy. See ya. And they both like fell apart, crapped the bed. It was when all of a sudden now Perry's played on like 8 teams. And it was like, bad move, bud. If you had him last year, sure. But this year, and I just like, that was it. Basically, it went the other way. It was just like, no, you lost fantasy, bud.
Yeah.
Now your whole year is dependent on these two scoring together on the power play, and they're not. And you're up the creek without the paddle. And it's, so anyways, I like, though, that's the way to do it early on, especially in the year when we don't have a lot of real games to go off of live. It's like, how high did you draft this dude and why? Is it my turn or your turn now? I'm just like all torn up. But okay, well, there's a good example on here of somebody that is not going to be my pick, but I'll just throw his name out real quick. Brady Tkachuk is a total stud in real life, and he might have been drafted a little bit high for our league because in our league, penalty minutes hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went higher than I remembered. He's a center winger, though, so I mean it's a good pick. But he was 16th overall in the whole NHL, and penalty minutes go against your points.
Yeah.
So that's a little risky. But okay, for me,
though, my 74 points last year. So
right, and I personally see a bump in his points, but like you're less than a point a game, and I think he led the NHL in penalty minutes.
He had 134 penalty minutes last year,
so maybe not led the NHL, but that's.
But I mean, you're talking just split it. You're talking minus 65 points right there.
Right, every 2 minutes, a penalty is a minus a half. Right, that's how we do it.
Oh, so I did that wrong.
Is that right?
Yes, a 2-minute minor is minus half a point.
Right. So if he's got 134, that's 70 minutes. So that's negative 35 points right out of the door, which is 12 goals.
Yeah.
So you're swinging 12 goals the wrong way.
For round 2.
Right out of the gate. For round 2.
Yeah.
Again, is he going to go?
Crosby.
Right.
Fox.
And last year he had a bunch of goals. He had like 37 goals, I want to say.
Yeah.
So do you think he's going to get 52 goals then to make up the points? Because I don't think he's going to get 52 goals.
No.
I think he's going to get 30 goals. So, anyways, that's sometimes people are overvalued. So we kind of broke that down a little bit, but my actual scrub is a little mean, but I do think that sometimes you can pull the plug. Like, for me, it's like, okay, just, pull the plug on Bertuzzi and go get Duclair, but I'm not gonna because I bit that bowl. I made that soup. I gotta drink it here. But somebody picked up Korpisalo in round 16. Jeremy Swayman was not signed yet. Fair. It's round 16. Okay. He just got lit up like a Christmas tree, and people are roasting him that they're saying like, oh, well, Boston has bad defense, unlike Ottawa has got really good defense. Like, I know it's the Panthers, and it was a rough game for him, but I just looked real quick. He's got good goalies. The guy who drafted him is Bender City Pigeons. So he's got good goalies. He's got Jake Ottinger, and he's got Jordan Binnington, who we all know can be the best or the worst in the league, depending on his mood. But you got Ottinger. You're good with goalies.
Right.
So you got Korpisalo he's on the bench. He'll get you a few points. Swayman's not signed. Okay, well, Swayman is signed. And Korpisalo had one game, and it was bad. Cut the cord. That is a backup parachute. You are in desperation mode. Get him out of your lineup. Because if you want a third goalie, here's who's available. Copley, Schmid, Melka, Vanacek, Levi, Merzlikins, Husso, Allen, Boursois, Big Save Dave, and Jonathan Quick. If you want a backup goalie, go get Jonathan Quick.
Yeah.
Because he's only going to play 20 games, and he's going to have a 91 save percentage every time he plays. Look at last year. Shesterkin is probably the best goalie in the league. He kind of fell apart for 1 month, and John comes in and is an absolute wall.
Yeah.
Get rid
Good
of,
point.
I don't know if your buddy listens to the podcast, but cut Korpisalo and go get somebody else, because Bourgeois might be, well, he's hurt. So Jake Allen, like I said, looking like a genius, the Devils are going to win. He plays one game. Okay, 95 save percentage and wins the game. Only faced 17 shots. Buffalo looks like they're a Pee-wee team, but I think they got outshot 40-17 that game. 40.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like they were playing a different league. It was, but anyways, point being, I know it's only one game. Sorry, Korpisalo, don't hate me in case you're in the ice bath listening to our podcast. But no, that's a no. That is a pickup goalie on Sunday night, desperate for a W with nobody else available. Do not have him on your roster full time. Drop that dude.
Oh, I like it. I would agree with that. I'm going to go, this is my third one, dealer's choice. I'm going to go with some studs, and I'm going to group these guys together because they're both defensemen. They're only drafted 2 rounds apart, and they were drafted by the same team, and that team was the Sam Squanches.
Ooh.
You got Ghost in round 11, 132nd overall, and then Lane Hudson, round 13, 156 overall. I think those guys are going to be, are they going to kill it? Yeah, maybe not. But they are guys that are going to be on their team's respective power plays. They are a little more offensively minded. Some of the stuff I've been seeing with Hudson, dude, is he's going to be fun to watch. He's made some great plays, great passes, that sauce out of the back of the zone, up the ice to the opposite blue line, dude, is just, it's unreal. I like these guys. I like Ghost last year was on the Wings power play, and it's kind of a specialty. So I mean, it's again, I like the floor with those guys, that I think they're going to at least have the opportunities play power play. Ghost probably gets more points on the power play just because his team's going to be better playing for Carolina than Montreal. But you got those guys in the double-digit rounds. I don't think there was a lot of gambling there, but there is high reward, I think, in those spots that you drafted them. So I like those guys. I like defensemen that play on the power play. I think that gives you a little bit of a bump advantage-wise against defensemen that are a little more defensive-minded. Even if a defenseman is a little offensive-minded, if he's not on the power play, he's probably not going to be valuable to you. You got to get those defensemen that play on the power play, whether it's and it's crazy because some of the teams you look at it, and there is such a drop-off between the team's first power play and a second power play. Colorado comes to mind. That first power play, you're talking, you got McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, throw whoever else you want out there, fine.
Right.
But then what's round, your power play 2? Casey Middlestat's your center on PP2. I mean, the gap is just tremendous. And
right.
So if you can find defensemen that play on the power play, especially power play 1, and I don't know if Hudson is, how much time he's going to get. I think he's slated or at least projected to play on the power play. But that gives you at least a fighting chance, at least that opportunity for those guys to get you some points. I like that. I like those picks in those late double-digit rounds like that. I think you found great value in those 2 defensemen right there. So I'll lump those 2 together, call them studs.
I like it for 2 reasons. Your breakdown's good, and it's my team that you're talking up. But not to continue to talk myself up, but my defenseman.
Well, I'm just
Evan
looking
Bouchard.
at those now, and if you have Bouchard and Adam Fox. Now we have to preface this with we trade draft picks in our league, and so
right, yeah.
Stu, had 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. His 2 second-round picks were both high-scoring defensemen, Bouchard and Adam Fox. So those are your top 2 defensemen on your team. You have the luxury of waiting another 10 rounds before you pick your next defenseman. And your next defenseman is your third defenseman, Shane Gostisbehere, who I think is going to be, not bad at all. Not bad. And then Lane Hudson in round 13 there. And then you picked up wisely a fifth defenseman, Bowen Byram, for the Sabres, who's probably going to get a little bit of power play time as well. And he's just going to be your guy. Your fifth defenseman in our league is just your plug and play. I just need a guy that's got a game. You know, you're not really counting on him, but you're throwing him in there in the lineup when one of your other defensemen doesn't have a. You're set on.
He got me an assist already, and he was the last pick in the whole entire draft.
Yeah.
Round 17 of the last pick, 204 overall, got him. Or he has an assist, and he's a throwaway pick compared to the other people. Lots of people are picking their D that late, scrambling. So, yes, since we trade away draft picks, I had 2 round 1, 2 round 2, and the order's random, kind of. And so, well, I won't go into whatever. If you win the loser bracket, you get a pick. So that was me this year. So I picked on purpose to go last. So then you get the final pick of round 1 and snake draft the first pick of round 2. So sometimes that helps you can strategize. We do keeper league for 1 year. So my keeper is Leon Draisaitl. Since I get to pick what order, if Connor McDavid was out there and available in the league, then I would have picked 1 overall and had Leon and Connor McDavid and kicked my feet up and won. But Connor McDavid was a keeper on a different team. So I said, okay, well, do you want to pick number 1 and number 24? Or do you want to pick number 12 and number 13? So I went with 12 and 13 because I had another round 2 and another round 1. So I said, it's still random. I might get the number 1 pick still. So what I wanted to chirp and pretend that our commissioner, Nick, is cheating, I had 2 first-round picks. Somebody else had 3 first-round picks. So the 2 of us have 5 out of 12.
Yeah.
All 5 picks were 6 through 12. We had 5 picks that are in the bottom 50%. None of us picked above round 6. And I said, wait a minute. We got 50% of the picks and they're all in the bottom half? This is rigged. But I went, though, because of that, you can't miss, right? You traded away your future last year. You have 2 first round, 2 second round, and I have Leon Draisaitl. You cannot screw. If you screw up, then you're done. You're over. Just don't even play. They'll set your lineups. You suck. And so I was like, I have to get a forward, a D, and a goalie because I got to make sure I lock them. So in no particular order, even though it was round 1, round 2, round 3, I picked 11, 12, and 13 in a row by random chance. I picked last on purpose, and then I got random lottery second to last. So I'm like, okay. So I had 3 in a row, and I went Shesterkin, Marner, Bouchard. And so I felt that was good. And then I got a little lucky with then I come back around, and Adam Fox is there. So then I go get Zibanejad. So I'm looking at the power play. I got Bouchard with Draisaitl, and I got Fox with Zibanejad. I think Marner might win the Art Ross maybe. I think he's going to have a career year, and I've got the best goalie in the league. So I'm looking at my team going, if I lose, stop hockey. Turn it off. Get into Formula One racing. Something. Give up because you suck. So anyways, now that I've talked about myself, which is my favorite thing, I had a good name here that now I've forgotten, but we can shift gears a tiny bit because I don't want to say his name again, but it just I think is going to prove my point because last podcast my scrub was Jake DeBrusk, and I think that he got drafted too high, and I would love for us to make a mental note and see who gets more points throughout the whole year. Is right here.
I like it.
Lucci Chong is Jason. He's very good at fantasy. Yep. In round 12, he took Jake DeBrusk. And in round 12, I took. Okay, now to be fair, I picked right before him. I thought I picked right after him. Okay. I took Martin Nietzsche. Okay. Who's a center winger. Yeah. So let's just, at the end of the year, let's see who gets more points. Jake DeBrusk, who's never had more than 50 points in his whole career, or Martin Nietzsche, who's probably going to play on the first power play of debatably one of the best teams in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes. So, not that Vancouver's bad, obviously. They're good too. But let's just see DeBrusk versus Nietzsche by the end of the year. That wasn't my scrub, though. I didn't want to go too hard on DeBrusk again, but now I've forgotten who I had lined up. So I will stick with that, saying that's a pretty high draft pick. Round, what did I say, 12? I guess that's pretty low. But it's just, I mean, his career high is 50. His average is 40.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Gunter is undrafted. There's a lot of people that think he's going to score 30 or 40 goals. So if he scores 40 goals undrafted and Jake DeBrusk has 14, then come talk to me.
Yeah. You're talking that dude from Utah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Gunter? Or is that Gauthier?
He's got 2 goals tonight.
Right. You drafted him, though.
I don't think so.
No.
I drafted the rookie from Philly.
Oh, right. Who's probably going to score 30 or 42. Yeah. Everyone's kind of saying, oh, watch out, he's Ovechkin.
Right.
But maybe I was going to say DeBrusk because I just wanted to chirp some of the people who got picked after him were like Michael Bunting is 2 rounds after him. I got Velarde 2 rounds after him, also a center winger. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I'm not big on, but people picked him in the round after. You know, there's some. Jake DeBrusk, I think, is just overvalued in the NHL in general, and for fantasy, he's just not good. That's all I'm always saying. So I promise I'll leave him alone and stop bringing him up. But now this is a weird one. Let's say this because I lost my spot and forgot who I was going to say. I don't think Landeskog's going to play. And somebody took him. I mean, it's round 15, so it's not a throwaway, and they have Rantanen. So it's not a bad pick. Because if he's healthy, you're going to have Landeskog and Rantanen. But, I mean, I don't know. There were some pretty good players picked after him that I don't think he's going to play in the NHL.
Yeah, I think... you know, if he's only been out of the league for a year or, you know, missed half the season last year or something and you want to take a gamble with him, he hasn't played in like 2 years.
Right. That's what I was like, wait, what? Half a season? I thought it's been 2 years. Right. I agree because that was – I'm sorry I cut you off. That's who I was going to say. I was going to say a stud. Mm-hmm. Somebody picked Mark Stone in like round 16. Yeah. That's a stud. I know he has injury issues, but like – That dude, you can just write down 80 points. If he's healthy, he might score 100. Landeskog hasn't played since they won the Cup.
Yeah.
And as far as I understand it, he basically can't skate.
And if you've
not at an NHL level, not on a full contact level.
Yeah, you've been out of it that long. I think when you come back, you obviously have some rust. You got some nerves. I mean, just, you know, you're not going to want to go. I mean, just think about it. You just spent all that time rehabbing. If and when he does come back, you know, how gun shy is he going to be? You know, he's not going to want to get hurt and then miss another, you know. So I understand the appeal there. You know, he is a very talented player playing on the Avs, so high-powered offense. But where did he get drafted? What round did you say?
I think it's 15 or 15, 172. So, for example, the next pick was Jakob Slavin.
Yeah.
For Carolina.
I mean, if you want to gamble on him in your last round pick, maybe, because everybody's last round picks probably at some point are going to get dropped during the year. But, I mean, that's just, Yeah, well, you look at okay, so I'm looking at it now. He got picked 172, and to be fair, well, I would say I don't know if he was auto drafted or not, but I don't know that Yahoo would have
Ooh,
auto drafted him. But 2 picks later, Tyler Toffoli, top line for the
right,
Sharks.
right.
So Jonathan
I know
Druin,
the
I
Sharks
picked
suck, but
in
Jonathan
round
Bruin,
15.
yeah.
He's top line Colorado. Now, is he going to stay there? Probably not. But he's starting out there. So,
And he's going to be on the power
yeah,
play, right? Especially with Landeskog out.
yeah. So
It's
I
an
don't,
interesting pick.
it's a head scratcher, but I mean, to me, I wouldn't have done it because even if he does come back, I don't see him being his old self.
No, and even I'm not big on him just because I feel like he's a bit of a prima donna, but Pierre-Luc Dubois is after him.
Yeah,
There is a chance that PLD scores 40 goals. You know,
yeah,
Landeskog is not going to score 40 goals. I don't care if he comes back. And like to your point, maybe a little hesitant, maybe a little, gun shy of like, I just spent all this time in rehab. I'm finally back. The guy doesn't play a very slow, conservative game. He's pretty tough. He gets in there. He's been known to fight if he has to. Like, you're going to have your captain come back and what circle around the far blue line, Ovechkin style, looking for a cherry pick. He's not going to
yeah.
do that. He's going to get into the shit, and he's going to get into the stuff, and he's going to get hurt. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
we try to keep it
yeah.
PG. We're trying to make sure that we have a kid-friendly podcast here. Sometimes I get worked up, sorry, but I think that's just a high pick for somebody who we don't know if he's going to play.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, did we have more to do with our draft, or are we good on that? I don't remember where we were because you got a NHL history.
I'm good on that. Yeah, I do have a little bit of NHL here we can move into with Nick's history lesson. Nick's hockey history lesson. I like just calling it the NHL, Nick's history lesson, but it is really Nick's hockey history lesson. So
Yeah.
I was a little behind kind of researching this a little bit. I was doing that right before we got on here to start recording. And but I figured since Stu, you are dealing with a hurricane in your neck of the woods down there, I would just talk about the Carolina Hurricanes a little bit. We have an
Okay.
NHL team
Okay.
named the Hurricanes, so staying in
I
line
like
here.
it.
There were some things that I kind of learned that I didn't realize with the Hurricanes. So they were originally formed in 1971 as the New England Whalers. I think a lot of people knew that they used to be the Hartford Whalers, but before that they were the New England Whalers. They played
Yeah.
in the WHA. That's the same league that the Oilers came out of with Gretzky playing his first year in that league.
Yeah. Okay.
So they joined. So they formed in '71. The WHA was only around for 8 or 9 years. They joined the NHL in 1979 as part of the merger. So NHL, WHA, they merged. And it was interesting. I didn't get too into the weeds with the merger thing, but it wasn't like a regular merger. I guess in some other instances, when leagues would merge, they would count that. This time they didn't, which is kind of a beef with Gretzky. His numbers would be even more because he played a year in the WHA that the NHL didn't
Right.
recognize
So
those
they
stats.
said your points.
Correct.
Right.
And that's why we talked, and he did win when we talked last time about the Calder Trophy. That's why he was not
Yeah.
eligible to win Rookie of the Year, because he had already played a year professionally. And he said, well, if that's the case, then count that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. So when they moved, they renamed themselves the Hartford Whalers because before they were the New England Whalers. Now you're in the NHL with the Boston Bruins. So they
Yeah.
renamed themselves Hartford Whalers in large because of the Boston Bruins already kind of had that territory. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Um, in
On that point,
1997, yeah, go ahead.
so because of New England's kind of the whole region, right? So the New England Patriots were already a team as well in the 70s.
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
you're
you're
just
close off the New
associating
England.
you're associating New England in sports with Boston,
Yeah,
right?
yes,
So that's,
exactly.
obviously the NFL is quite a bit bigger fan base than the NHL. So like, and
Right.
no offense to the Whalers and their sick jerseys that are awesome, but like Hartford's not a very big city.
It is
And
not.
you got an original six team in Boston with a football team named New England. Like you're better off changing that
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
Okay, so
So
I didn't
that was
know that.
something that was something that I didn't realize kind of into that. Um, but yeah, so they then in 1997 they relocated to North Carolina and they changed their name to the Carolina Hurricanes. So now also they kind of plagued by so when they were in Hartford, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there. But when they were in Hartford, they were plagued by the whole New England, Boston. You had a team there, but also you had a couple of teams in New York, and so they had very limited marketability.
Yeah,
They're right on the dividing line between the Bruins and the Rangers or the Islanders at the time. So you don't have a large fan base to pull from. They're already being pulled in different directions. Um,
which not to interject you again, but just for all of our fans that either aren't from the East Coast, Nick grew up in Maryland. A lot of us that aren't from the East Coast, we get the small states mixed up. And if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
listening from a different country, even Canada, sometimes you don't know where the states are at. Connecticut
right.
is very little in between New York City. The state of New York is shaped weird, but New York City is in the southern corner of the state, and Boston is north of it, really close, like 100 miles north, I think. And Connecticut, the whole entire state fits in between the two cities.
In
And
between it,
I have
yep.
heard that the river that splits Connecticut in half literally is like if you're on that side of the river, you're a Red Sox fan. If you're on that side
Mm,
of the river, you're a Yankees fan. So
yep,
Connecticut for sports is weird. Like I'm a New York person, I'm a Boston person for 100 years. So you're
yeah,
going baseball's been around forever, right? So baseball especially. But like you're in Connecticut and you're in between the two cities. Now you got to try to market a new team. Rangers are original six, Boston's original six, and you call yourself New England. Like you're
yeah,
in one. This is so that I'm loving the geography of this all. The
yeah.
uh,
And I had no idea that played such a
geography I
part
like
in.
the cultural stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, but I just
and
realized I was
no,
like,
you're fine.
oh,
Yeah,
a lot of people might not realize Connecticut's there.
yeah. And I mean, I knew the geography of the region, but that never came into my mind when I was thinking about, well, why didn't the Hartford Whalers make it? And it was like, well, because they were right in the middle of two original six teams,
Yeah, that's
and
hard. And then the Islanders come
and
in the 70s also, right?
yeah, and they were winning
And they're
they won cups
immediately
in the
good.
'80s. So yeah, that's hard to compete against.
Yeah,
So
that's tough. I didn't really
um,
realize all that. That makes sense.
yeah, so it makes sense that they struggled for a little bit. There were some other teams um, that came into the league with them when they um, joined in '79, but they and some of the other ones relocated. So you had the Oilers, the Jets, the Whalers, and the Nordiques were some of the other teams that came from the WHA over into
Okay.
the NHL as part of the merger. Um, and I'll remind me to jump back to that here in a few minutes when we get to
Mhm.
Stanley Cup Finals games. But so they relocated, they changed their name because of all that stuff. They went black and red for their colors because where they play at in Raleigh there is NC territory, and they're black and red, so they kind of um, piggybacked off of that. Initially, they had
NC State,
terrible
you said?
attendance. NC
Oh yeah,
State, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Originally, attendance was terrible. We're talking 5,000 fans or fewer. We're talking Florida Panther numbers from a few years ago. I
Don't
mean,
get
it
my
was,
Florida people mad at me here.
yeah. So it was bad. They had a few uh, hard years at first. There was even so they made the playoffs in 98, 99. So first winning season. They lost in the first round to the Bruins that year. And then shortly after they were eliminated in the playoffs, I don't know, I don't really remember this when it happened, but they had a defenseman, Steve, and I might say his name wrong, Chasson, Hiason. He was
Okay.
killed in a single vehicle drunk driving accident after they were eliminated from the playoffs. So kind of a tough thing to come back from after
Yeah.
first winning season and making the playoffs, and then immediately after being eliminated from the playoffs, losing a teammate like that. So just
Wow, that's rough.
hard to deal with, and shakes up an organization, obviously. So the season after that, that is when they made their big trade. So Keith Primo played for the Hurricanes. They traded him to the Flyers. There were some other
Okay.
pieces involved, but the two main pieces were Keith Primo and Rod Brindamore
Okay.
traded. So Rod the Bod goes to Carolina, Keith goes to Philly. They moved to a new arena that year. So when they initially moved to North Carolina, they were playing in an old barn, 90 minutes outside of Raleigh. It was hard to draw fans. You're saying that you're based out of Raleigh and that you're going to be there, but yet you're playing an hour and a half away. So essentially, every game is an away game. You don't really have.
Right.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you
90
have a home
minutes.
game, but so I believe it was like the 99-2000 season, they moved to a new arena and they introduced to us something that was a first for pro hockey in North America. What do you think it was, Stu? They were the first team
First,
to have these.
cheerleaders.
Ding, 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 cheerleaders. They called them
What
the
year was that?
Storm Squad.
What year was that with the cheerleaders?
That was like 99 or 2000.
I
That
remember
happened.
this, so I would have been nine years old. My mom was like furious.
Mm,
She's not even really a big hockey person, but the Red Wings were so good. We watched all the time, and of course they were always in the playoffs. My mom
yeah.
was like, "Ah, cheerleaders in hockey. That's ridiculous. That's a football thing. I can't believe this is what happens when the South is playing hockey and all." And I just, I was only like 9. I wasn't really like into the cheerleaders yet. But I was kind of like, I remember when you said that, it was like a memory just floated in my brain that I was like, dude, I remember that they had the girls come out with the cheer skirts just like a football team. And
Yeah.
people were like, I bet you Don Cherry was mad. I bet you Don Cherry thought, what, a couple
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah.
Let's
Right. So that was right around 2000. We had the Storm
Okay.
Squad.
Sorry,
So
I derailed us a little bit there, but I was kind of surprised when you said that. I'm like, holy crap, I
yeah.
remember this.
So
And the
um,
Southern teams, I think LA and Dallas said good idea.
yeah,
I'm pretty
probably.
sure.
Yeah.
And it was the Southern teams that were doing it. Obviously, the Cowboys cheerleaders are like the most famous in the world, right? But it's like, I think the Southern teams were like, yeah, that's smart. And
Yeah.
everyone else was, up freezing cold going, we don't do that in hockey.
Yeah. So after that, obviously we all Wings fans remember 2002. Carolina had a good year. They had Ron Francis, Rod the Bod, and some other good players. I was just trying to think here, but I'm jumping ahead
Irby
in my
was in
head.
goal, I think.
to when they.
Yeah, we're confusing it with the good year for them. They had a goalie that had
Well, they
weird
had
pads.
2002. Yeah, they had Arthur Zerbe,
Yeah.
short little guy. But in 2002, I'm just jumping in my head. I'm getting on the Wings glory days here. But
Man, this is great. I'm looking back here. Which one do I got on the board? No, that's the other one.
So they actually okay. So round one, they defeated the Devils,
Which
who were the defending Stanley Cup champs. And
that hockey team.
Round two,
Broder.
Yeah. Devils were loaded. They still won another cup a year after.
Loaded. Stevens, Niedermeyer. They were loaded.
So they beat the Devils, and then in round two they played Montreal. And Montreal wasn't necessarily anything special in my book, but that was the year, if you remember, Saku Koivu came back from beating cancer. And so they had a lot for, emotions running high.
Magic.
Montreal was actually up 2-1 in that series. And in game 4, they were winning 3-0 in the third period. Now, the Hurricanes came back to win that game and then the series.
Oh, my goodness.
That game 4, game 4, when they came back being down 3-0 in the third, they call that Miracle at Milton. For, the comeback that they had. So they come back from that game, then they win the next 2. They eliminate Montreal. Then they're going up against the Leafs. They beat the Leafs in 6. They go to the finals against the Wings. Everything's looking.
Just a sec, Nick. Sorry, I think you cut out. Who did they play after Montreal?
The Leafs.
Leafs. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Just Toronto.
So
that was the last time Toronto was in the East final.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
And then, right? Yeah. We as Wings fans know what happened in the Cup Finals. Game 1, I believe, goes to triple overtime. The Hurricanes win. They're up in the series only because Detroit says we want to win the Cup at home. So we have to.
Yeah, you're not going to win.
So then they just win the next 4, go ahead and knock it out. But that Carolina, that kind of put them on the map as far as being a legit contender. This team is for real. They're not just a borderline 500, okay, maybe a winning season here or there, whatever. So then a few years after that, we had the lockout afterwards. But then in 2006, they come back. They make it back to the Cup Finals. I forget which round it was. It might have been round 1 even or 2. Don't know. But they bring in this rookie goalie, Cam Ward. And he just lights it up, tears it up in the playoffs. They go on to beat the Edmonton Oilers 2006 for their first Stanley Cup championship. Cam Ward is the Conn Smythe winner. He's the 4th rookie to ever win it. I did not bother to look up the other rookies, so I can't quiz you on that. But I wonder if Ken Dryden would be considered a rookie to win the Conn Smythe, because technically I guess he would be, but then he won Rookie of the Year the next year after Conn Smythe.
And I think that his second year, they probably won the Cup too.
Yeah. So, but
that'd be an interesting look up. I bet you I gave everyone my bald look. Quick look at my bald. I bet you we could guess them, though. I bet you it's Bobby Orr, Ken Dryden, Cam Ward, and one other person.
I have to do some digging on that.
Because I want to say Lemieux, but they didn't win the Cup his rookie year, so that's not right.
Yeah.
We'll have to do some digging, but that's a good one. That's a good one to look at. I always used to Ward had like the best. He had it figured out. He came in as a rookie, Conn Smythe Cup, and then was good. His whole career he was good, but Carolina was a little bit irrelevant the rest of his career. Maybe that's mean, but like they're recently been really good after he retired.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
he just kind of like got his paycheck, got his name on the cup, and was like, okay,
Yeah.
see you. And then it just kind of hung out for 16 years, and it's like, good move.
Right. So I said I would come back to this with the Oilers, with the Hurricanes defeating the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals. That has been the only finals between teams that came in out of the WHA in 1979. So Edmonton Oilers, Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay. I like that. That's interesting. How else could it happen? How Carolina versus people, but who else was in the East? They're all in the West now, no? Edmonton, Jack,
Now, I
Colorado,
don't know if the Nordiques were in the East when they first came in the league, or where they were at exactly.
We'd have to do a little more research because I don't think that they did East-West in the 70s. I think two East
was, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think they called them East-West. They had like
1 through 16 right now in 2025. They never will, but like, I mean, could you imagine like, okay, Montreal versus Boston in the final? Like, oh.
Right. Yeah. It remains also the only professional championship that North Carolina has ever won. Now, granted, they don't have a baseball team or
just the Panthers.
They have the Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets or Bobcats, whatever they are right now, and the Hurricanes. So
yeah. Well,
no
man, the Hornets had a good logo. Back in the day, they had the teal and the purple with the big.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They're a different name now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one they've ever won. Now, is that both Carolinas? Because like the South, they're in Raleigh, right? So they're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And North Carolina has.
The Carolina Panthers are in Charlotte, which is right on the border of North and South Carolina. So anything that's called Carolina, both get it. So.
They both kind of join.
Yeah.
Unless it's college sports. Lord knows that's that.
Oh, that's where then that's just a whole different animal. Yeah.
That's a different can of worms.
Yeah. So a few little just tidbits here. So they were the first team to win the Stanley Cup with 9 losses in the playoffs. So they had to put in some effort
I wonder if it's the most games ever played to win.
I mean, it'd have to be close.
We have to do some research because that many losses, you would just assume.
Yeah. Now there have been teams with 9 losses that have won the cup. I don't know of any teams with more than that. I wouldn't think so because you're talking 9 losses. It takes 16 wins. 6, 9.
Well, you can only do 28, right? Maximum.
Right.
7-7-7-7 would be. Right. And that would be 12 losses.
So you're playing 25 out of a possible 28 playoff games. So.
Right. Yeah, that's really close. It'd be difficult to pass it.
Yeah. So they had, in 2010, they had the 7th pick overall, and they picked Jeff Skinner.
Okay.
He won Rookie of the Year for them. And in 2011, he played in the All-Star game that was hosted in Raleigh at the Carolinas' home arena. And he, at the time, was the youngest All-Star in NHL history. I'm not sure if that's been.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have known that.
I would not have guessed Jeff Skinner to do it. Now, here's another interesting tidbit about Jeff Skinner that I just learned. He has the most games, for sure, in the NHL, and I think it was even in...
Maybe all sports. I know this one.
Maybe all of sports. Most
Maybe.
games without a playoff appearance. Hasn't
No
even made the
playoff.
playoffs. Has not made the
And
playoffs.
bet you he's made $60 million and played for 15 years.
So he got drafted in
Never made
2010.
the playoffs one time.
Never made the playoffs. How many games do you think he's played?
Well, I think I might know because I feel like there was hype about it last year. He's played in 1,050 games.
1,006.
Because I think he was the only person ever in history to play 1,000 and not play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And maybe
I would have to assume.
all sports, maybe.
Yeah. For sure.
He would almost
no
have
one,
to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it even possible?
Which is crazy. I would not have thought that with as good as Carolina's been.
I think Shane Doan went to the playoffs 5 years, and he played his whole career in Arizona. How is it even possible to miss the playoffs?
That is crazy.
Okay, so is Edmonton? Edmonton's not going to make it? What if they do make it, but he doesn't play somehow? I'm not to put an injury on somebody, but like Edmonton,
that would be
still plays no games.
Yeah,
that
it's kind of crazy that someone can not just accidentally be on a playoff team for 15 years.
Right, and that is something to take into the stat is that his team's never gone. Yeah. It's not like, oh, there was 3 years where something weird. Oh, there was a lockout, and then
he got hurt or he didn't play, or
Your team's never gone to the playoffs, and he's been in the NHL for 15 seasons, 1,000 games.
Yeah.
And not one. Wild. He's like the opposite of Lindstrom. Lindstrom never missed the playoffs once in his whole career, which is going to add up to. I mean, Lindstrom played like 2 whole entire years. I mean, not quite. I think I lost your feed there, which I'm going to keep talking just to see. I've got a blank screen for you, Nick. I don't know if you're actually being shown, though. So can you hear me? If not, I might kind of start to do our sound off because, funny enough, this was going to be our shortest episode we've done yet, and it's definitely our longest because we had the Hurricane and the Spartan race talk. Maybe I'll do a little thing that at the start of the episode, maybe I'll record a little separate segment that lets people know, this was filmed during Hurricane Milton. And hey, are you back there? We had a little cutout on your camera, so I was just filling in some space.
I keep messing.
But you're back now, I think. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now. You're back up. I can see you. I was just kind of filling in the dead air. I was telling our viewers, I said, it's funny, we thought this would be our short episode, and it's our longest episode. But I might even record like a little segment you could put them at the front and say, this was filmed during Hurricane Milton. So if we have technical issues or internet cuts out and we're kind of, discussing the storm. So like, if you want to get to the hockey, skip the first 30 minutes. We're kind of talking about life. But, we're a new podcast. If you want to get to know us, hey, jump on board. Or if you're like me, I think I said this on a different episode. I didn't really do podcasts, but now I'm stuck at the office. Everyone, they're like cubicles, right?
Yeah.
It's like white collar office. So everyone's just headphones. Okay, I work 40, 50 hours a week. Like 1 hour podcast is, I got 39 left.
Right.
Like I got to listen to something here. So if you're just killing time, I have heard truck drivers love podcasts. I mean, I'm driving 19 hours without stopping. Like, listen to us ramble about Hurricane Milton for 30 minutes, stay safe on the road and put the podcast on.
Okay, I got just a few more little tidbits here about the Hurricanes.
I like it. Just shoot them off now, yeah.
Remember this, February 22nd, 2020, the 40th anniversary to the day of Miracle on Ice. Carolina has to use an emergency backup goalie. David Ayers becomes the first emergency goalie to win a game against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Woo!
Just a firestorm of memes and viral poking fun at Toronto and their lack of cups.
Which he was just in the news again recently. Did you see that? Let me see. He even comes up. I love how if you search this guy's name, it doesn't come up as like accountant that the Leafs can't beat. It came up as American ice hockey player, but he is a pro hockey player now. He signed a contract with a semi-pro league like this week. And so he is like 50 years old, and he's going to play this season somewhere.
That's kind of crazy. I didn't even know that.
I can't see where it is. He played. Yeah, he Carolina Hurricanes, 1 game, 1 win. Love it. Darn it! It was. I think it was Puck Empire on Instagram. I'll give a shout out because I love the news that guy does. I swear he signed a contract with a team below, but whatever. It's not coming up when I searched it. But
that was something that I
here we go.
forgot about. When I was kind of doing some research on the Canes, it was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that dude.
I forgot that he played for them. Okay, it's the OSHL, whichever league that is. It's not telling me, but he at age 47 signed a contract officially.
You still have time, Stu. You still have time
this year.
It's not too late.
I still have time. I can get back at it. He's playing for the Richmond Hill Coyotes. So Richmond Hill is right next to Charlotte, isn't it? Isn't it in the Williamton? Richmond Hill. Me either. I forget. No, sorry. Carolina people. I love geography, but I forget it. Anyways, the OSHL is the Ontario Supreme Hockey League. So they're, probably a step below the ECHL, maybe even another step. Yeah. But still, he's like a 50-year-old guy that is way better than me. Tell you what.
Playing, won the Selke Award twice, so best defensive forward, and then he has since won the Jack Adams Award as best coach. And I didn't do any research on that, but it's just kind of striking me now that I wonder how many people have won an individual award as coach and player. Probably not very many.
Probably not very many. Yzerman jumps off the board for me because I think he won GM of the year, and of course he's won individual trophies, but not very many. I bet you there's 10 or less.
And a guy we had mentioned earlier, Jakub Slavin, or Slavin, however you want to say it, but he won the Lady Byng 1 year for gentlemanly play. Played the whole season. I don't know if it was all 82 games, but essentially played a whole season and only got 2 penalty minutes. So only 1 penalty called against.
Wow, that's amazing. One penalty.
So
the whole year.
Pretty interesting. Just kind of looking back at the Hurricanes. I had to be honest, when I first started, I was like, man, if you had to sit me down and like make me tell you when they became a team, like I could probably narrow it down, but it just isn't one that like pops into my mind. Like I can get you, obviously original 6, and then we know that there was an expansion, and then some other teams came, but it was like, just because 79 they did come into the NHL, but they were a different team then. So then when did they become the Carolina Hurricanes and not the Hartford Whalers anymore? So, but
it's a good history, though. I like that story. It had a lot to it.
Yeah, more than I would have guessed. The geography part with the name and stuff, I would never have thought that would have played a role in that. But that was interesting to learn about. And just some history nuggets there of just their franchise. So,
no, I like it because they're a team that is so good recently that like they get forgotten sometimes or overlooked, and I think their fan base hates it because they're really good now for 5 years, maybe even 10. But I'd say for 5 years, they've been legitimate cup contenders where they're like, everyone's sitting here going, oh, it's the Leafs year, it's the Leafs year, it's the Leafs year. And then they're saying, well, hold on, watch out for Tampa. Tampa's the juggernaut. And then it's like, okay, well, you can't forget about Colorado and Edmonton. And Carolina's just sitting there like, we're the best team in the East. What are you talking about? Like, why isn't anyone talking about us? And if you're from the region, and I don't really follow the NFL, but the Panthers aren't very good, right? I mean,
they're pretty bad.
That's what it. So it's like, right. So it's like, okay, here's your team that represents you, that has a rich history, that has a cool history, and your team's amazing. And everyone's going, you don't even have a superstar. Sebastian Aho's not a superstar. And that's all you ever hear. And it's like, you got to just be so sick of it. And so I like that you brought in all that WHA history and some of their fun stats. Like, that's pretty cool.
But I have all intentions of getting back to the trophies and different traditions and players and just little nuggets of stuff. So it's fun doing some research.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to mix it up, like you said. You know, you don't want to. Okay, we started this show and we go through every award, and it's like, okay, well, now I'm out of ideas. You know, spread them out. Take the whole year, and we have to do a different podcast because this one's too long. But we should do some sort of a
prediction,
trophy prediction. You know, and I kind of want to do something. Yeah, trophy tracker, and we could give 2 names. I feel like would be fun, like your obvious name and your stretch name. Like, so if you go, okay, Hart Trophy, I'm going to go Connor McDavid. It's like, okay, that's a little boring. But there might be some people that it's like, you could see them winning, but it's a stretch, you know, like a Soros. It's like, okay, well, if he wins the Vezina and they go on to an amazing run, it's like, well, I mean, he could win the Hart, I guess. I don't really see it, but I mean, it could happen. You know what I mean? Something like that. But obviously on a different one, we've gone a little long, but I love the history updates because it's just more hockey nerd stuff. Okay, so anything else that we wanted to cover or go over or whatever? I don't think so. Pretty much does it. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so first night going great. Can't wait for more of the season to go on. And then next week, depending on my internet and electricity with the Hurricane Milton coming through, it will play it by ear. So, you know, if we've got new followers that stuck with us for the full 2 hours, we appreciate it. Anyone who, you know, listens, that's okay. You know, I love it. And we're not, you know, we're not quitting our day jobs. We just like to do this. So if you hate our podcast, you know, sorry, but we don't care. We're just going to keep doing it. You know, try not to thumbs us down into oblivion, I guess. If you do like it, share, subscribe, thumbs up, give some feedback. Yeah, give us some advice, you know? It's not very constructive criticism to say you suck. You know, but if you say like, "Oh, you guys should do this," or maybe you should have a plan so you don't talk so long, you know, whatever it is, it's like, you know, right, but you know, it's good, and we want to set up. I won't spoil it, I guess, because it's our plan later. We want to set up some sort of user write-in type thing where you guys, you know, hey, you're doing history. You guys should do what's your favorite story? You should do the history of Bobby Orr's contract stuff. That's super interesting, kind of sad, but the young people don't know about that, you know. So write in, let us know, leave feedback, like, subscribe, download, all the things would really help us out just to gain traction because we're new. So with all that is said, I'm gonna hunker down. Hope I'm okay. Storm's gonna hit tomorrow, so I should be all right. And keep your stick on the end.